Long ago, in the heart of Usulu village in Benin, Edo State, there lived a girl named Ivie, which means precious bead. But to her family, she was anything but precious. Her father had wanted a son, and when Ivie was born instead, disappointment shadowed her life. Her mother died shortly after childbirth, and her stepmother treated her worse than a slave. At just 12, Ivie was pushed out of the family house with nothing but torn clothes and a wrapper tied around her chest. She wandered from village to village, doing odd jobs, sleeping in market stalls, and begging to survive. By 15, the streets had hardened her heart. She began to live a wayward life, dancing in beer parlours, following older men, and losing herself in things that gave only temporary comfort. People whispered her name with shame. That one? She's finished. Nothing good will come from her. But deep in her spirit, the voice of her late mother echoed, "Ivie, you are more than what the world says you are." One day, while sitting by the river Osse, a blind old woman approached her and said, "Daughter of the soil, there is gold inside you. What they rejected will soon be needed in the palace." Ivie laughed bitterly. "Palace? I am nobody." But the woman only smiled. "Even a stone the builders rejected can become the chief cornerstone." That was the turning point. Ivie left her wayward life and travelled to Benin City, where she started selling fruits by the roadside. Her kindness and discipline drew people to her stand. She would always give an extra orange to hungry children and help elderly women carry their baskets. One day, a professor from the University of Benin, who often bought bananas from her, asked, "Girl, why are you not in school?" With tears in her eyes, Ivie shared her story. The professor was touched. He paid for her to sit for WAEC and later for university. Years passed. Ivie studied sociology and community development. She returned to her roots and began organizing programs to mentor street girls, clean up slums, and rebuild the lives of young people in Edo. Her name echoed in every community hall. One day, the king heard of her works and summoned her. Dressed in royal attire, with red coral beads and dignity in her steps, Ivie walked into the palace, the same girl who once had nowhere to sleep. "Daughter of the soil," the king said, "your good works have built the city stronger. We now name you the Ogyenwonyi, the builder of women." From that day, Ivie's name changed in every mouth. The rejected daughter had become the chief cornerstone, not just in Benin, but across Edo State. And those who once looked down on her now rose to greet her with respect. Years after being named Ogyenwonyi, Ivie's influence spread beyond Edo State. She established a women's training center in Benin City, where widows, single mothers and young girls learned tailoring, catering, hairdressing and farming. The center became a place of hope, where many came with tears but left with dignity. One day, news spread that a severe flood had destroyed several communities along the river Osse. Without hesitation, Ivie mobilized her team, raised funds, and led a relief mission. She personally waded through muddy waters, delivering food, clothing, and medicine. The people began to call her Iyare, the mother who runs to help. Her story reached national news. Journalists marveled. How can the girl who once slept under market stalls now rebuild lives across Nigeria? During the next Igwe festival, the Oba once again summoned her to the palace. Standing in the great court, he said, "When you were rejected, you became stronger. When you were forgotten, you became unforgettable. The city of Benin will forever remember you as a pillar of hope." And so, the rejected stone became the cornerstone, not just of a palace, but of an entire generation's future. Legacy of the cornerstone years turned into decades, and Ivie's name became a living proverb in Edo State. When the world throws you away, build a kingdom with the stones they hurled at you. Her women's training center expanded into the Ivie Foundation, with branches across Nigeria. Thousands of young women who once roamed the streets became nurses, teachers, entrepreneurs, and even community leaders. Many of them would say proudly, "I am a daughter of Ivie." One evening, as the sun dipped low over the city of Benin, Ivie walked through Usulu. the same streets where she had once been chased away. Children ran to greet her, women called her name with joy, and even the elders bowed in respect. She reached her father's old house, now worn and abandoned. Standing at the gate, she whispered, "Papa, you may not have believed in me, but I carried our name to places even kings bless." Not long after, the Edo State government honored her with the Star of Benin Medal for her lifelong service to humanity. At the ceremony, the Oba's praise resounded in the Great Hall. "Ivie, your hands built more than homes. They built hearts. You were the stone they rejected, yet you became the very foundation on which we stand today." And in the quiet of her heart, Ivie knew her life was the proof that destiny always finds its way home. The night after receiving the Star of Benin Medal, Ivie could not sleep. She sat on her veranda, watching the city lights twinkle like scattered diamonds over Benin City. Her thoughts drifted back to the lonely girl who once hid in market stalls, to the blind woman by River Ose whose prophecy had sounded impossible. The stone the builders rejected will become the chief cornerstone. The words echoed again, but this time they weren't just a prophecy, they were her life's testimony. From that night, Ivie began a new mission. Instead of only training women for skills, she started the Cornerstone Project, a yearly program that took in the most neglected children, orphans, street kids, and rejected daughters, and gave them education, mentorship, and a chance to lead. By the 10th year, the first batch of Cornerstone children had graduated from universities. One became a doctor, another a lawyer, and several others became teachers and engineers. Many returned to Usulu to build schools, clinics, and businesses. One day, as Ivie walked into a hall filled with these grown men and women, they all rose to their feet and chanted, "Mother Ivie, the stone that built us all." Tears rolled down her cheeks. She realized her life had come full circle. The girl who had once been thrown away had become the root from which many new trees had grown. Years passed, and Ivie's hair turned silver like the moon over River Os. She had trained hundreds, maybe thousands, of women and children. The city of Benin was dotted with businesses, schools, and clinics that traced their roots back to her helping hands. But something unexpected happened. The blessings she had given began to return to her in ways she never imagined. One evening, Ivie fell seriously ill and had to be taken to a private hospital. When the bill came, it was already paid. The doctor smiled and said, "Mama Ivie, you trained me when I had nothing. How can I take a coin
from you?" On another occasion, her house roof was dashed by a storm. Before she could even ask for help, young men from Uselu arrived with building materials. They worked all day, singing praise songs, and repaired her home for free. It became clear. The children she had once lifted from the ground now stood as her shield. In her old age, Ivie was never alone. The Cornerstone children rotated caring for her, ensuring she had food, laughter, and company. On her 80th birthday, they held a grand celebration in the palace courtyard. The Oba himself attended, declaring, "This is not just a daughter of the soil, she is the mother of a nation." Ivie smiled, surrounded by the lives she had rebuilt. She realized the truth of an old Edo saying, "The hand that lifts others will never fall to the ground." In the cool Harmattan season, when the winds carried the smell of dry earth and the nights were filled with soft moonlight, Mama Ivie knew her time was near. She called her closest Cornerstone children to her bedside. Her voice was weak but steady, like the last note of a sacred drum. "My children," she said, "I came into this world as a rejected stone, but the master builder turned me into a pillar. Remember, your true crown is not gold or coral beads. It is the lives you lift up." They wept, holding her hands, but she smiled. "Do not mourn too long. Continue the work. Let no girl walk the streets hopeless, as I once did. Promise me this." They all answered in one voice, "We promise, Mother Ivie." That night, as the moon sat high above Benin City, Mama Ivie took her final breath. The news spread like wildfire. Markets closed. Women tied black cloth on their heads. Men and children gathered in the palace courtyard, singing the songs she loved. The king declared 3 days of mourning, and on the final day, her coffin, carved from the finest Edo wood, was carried through the streets. Coral beads were placed on it, symbolizing the honor she had brought to the land. She was buried near River Ose, where the blind woman had once spoken the prophecy. On her grave, they built a stone monument shaped like a rising pillar, with the words, "The stone the builders rejected became the chief cornerstone, built a nation." From that day, every year during the Igwe festival, her story is told to the children of Benin. And so, Mama Ivie lived on, not in flesh, but in the hearts of a people who knew that no rejection is final when destiny is at work.
Years after Mama Ivie's time, Usalo had grown into a bustling heart of commerce and culture in Benin City. New roads crisscrossed the land, markets swelled with traders, and children played freely in open courtyards. But no matter how much the city changed, her name remained like a sacred drumbeat in the hearts of the people. The orphanage she founded had expanded into the Cornerstone Foundation, a place where no child was ever turned away. Its gates, carved from the finest Edo wood, bore the inscription, "From the stone they rejected, comes shelter for all." Elders often said the land prospered because of the blessings she had planted. Women found the courage to start businesses, men learned to respect the strength of daughters, and leaders began to see what beyond wealth and beauty. One market day, a young girl named Iso, barefoot and hungry, wandered into the city. She had been cast out by relatives, told she was worthless, but the guards at the Cornerstone Foundation smiled and welcomed her in. Inside, she was given food, a place to sleep, and books to learn from. Years later, Iso became the city's first female architect, designing buildings that honored Edo heritage. When asked what inspired her, she would simply say, "Mama Ivie walked so I could run." The people realized then that Mama Ivie's story was not just history, it was a seed still sprouting in every generation. Her rejection had been the beginning, not the end. Decades after Mama Ivie's passing, her story traveled far beyond the red walls of Benin City. At first, it was carried by the Cornerstone children who moved to other parts of Nigeria, teachers in Lagos, nurses in Kano, farmers in Delta, and businesswomen in Abuja. They told her tale in schools, churches, and marketplaces. Then the story crossed oceans. Edo sons and daughters living abroad began hosting Mama Ivie Day in London, New York, Toronto, and Johannesburg. At these gatherings, they would wear white, adorn themselves with coral beads, and retell the legend of the girl once rejected who became the mother of a nation. Universities invited scholars from Benin to speak about her life as a model of community development. Her quotes appeared in books, documentaries, and even street murals. One large mural in downtown Toronto bore the words, "Rejection is not your ending, it is the fire that shapes your beginning." One year, the United Nations honored her posthumously with the Global Humanitarian Legacy Award. Representatives from Edo State traveled to Geneva to receive it, placing coral beads on the stage in her honor. The world finally knew what the people of Benin had known for generations, that Mama Ivie's life was a masterpiece of resilience. And so, from the dusty streets of Usalo to the grand halls of the world, her name became a bridge between cultures, proving that the power of one determined soul can echo.
Long after Mama Ivie's story had circled the globe, the people of Benin began to believe that her spirit still walked among them, not as a ghost of fear, but as a guiding presence. Mothers swore that when their daughters were troubled, they would dream of a gentle woman in coral beads who told them, "Rise, my child. You are more than what they call you." Fishermen claimed that when storms threatened their boats on the river Os, a calm voice whispered, "Hold fast," and the water stilled. The elders, seeing these signs, declared that Mama Ivie's spirit had become part of the land itself, woven into the soil, the waters, and the red earth walls of Benin. To honor this, a shrine was built near her monument by the river. But it was not like the shrines of old, no sacrifices of blood or fear. Instead, people brought symbols of hope, books, beads, baskets of food, and hand-woven cloth. Each offering was given with a prayer: "Let no child be rejected. Let no daughter be wasted. Let every stone find its place." And year after year, miracles were told. The barren conceived after praying at the shrine. The hopeless found strength. The poor rose to wealth. All claimed the blessing of Ivie the cornerstone. Her story had gone beyond history, beyond legacy, into spirit and legend as eternal as the heartbeat of Benin itself. Generations passed. Children who never saw Mama Ivie with their own eyes still grew up hearing her name sung like a praise chant. Her story no longer lived only in books or monuments. It had become a proverb, passed from mouth to mouth, fire to fire, age to age. When a child was born into hardship, the elders would say, "Do not fear, even Ivie was once rejected. When a young woman was mocked for being poor, her mother would whisper, "Remember my daughter." The stone they cast away became the pillar of Benin. Even kings and chiefs, when facing difficult matters, would remind their councils, if Mama Ivie could turn disgrace into glory, then we too can find strength in rejection. At the Great Ig Festival, her name was now called alongside the ancestors. Storytellers, drummers, and dancers would chant together, "Ivie, the stone that rose. Ivie, mother of the forgotten. Ivie, builder of nations." And in every corner of Edo State, from the smallest farm hut to the Oba's grand palace, her name lived as a proverb. To reject a child is to reject tomorrow, for the rejected stone may yet become the cornerstone. Thus the story of Mama Ivie did not end in Uslu, nor in Benin City, nor even in the world beyond. It lived in the heartbeat of Proverbs, eternal, unbroken, everlasting.